King Saud bin Abdulaziz Al Saud was the second king of Saudi Arabia, ruling from 1953 to 1964. His reign marked a significant period in the history of Saudi Arabia, filled with both accomplishments and challenges. Here is a comprehensive history of King Saud's life and reign. Early life and background. Born 1902 in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Family. King Saud was the eldest son of King Abdulaziz Al Saud, the founder of modern Saudi Arabia, and his mother was the daughter of a prominent tribal leader from the Al-Duish tribe. Education. Saud was educated by tutors and trained in Islamic law, history, and tribal traditions. Like his siblings, he was prepared for a future in leadership from a young age. Marriage. Saud had multiple wives and many children, in line with the traditional practices of the Saudi royal family. Early role in Saudi government. As the eldest son of King Abdulaziz, Saud was deeply involved in the governance of Saudi Arabia during his father's reign. He was appointed as the crown prince and was groomed to take over the throne after his father's passing. Saud served in various administrative capacities, including overseeing the kingdom's development, dealing with foreign affairs, and helping his father in managing the country. Accession to the throne, 1953. King Abdulaziz's death. In 1953, following the death of King Abdulaziz, Saud ascended to the throne, becoming King Saud of Saudi Arabia. Proclamation as king. Saud's rule began with great expectations, as he inherited a relatively young and rapidly developing kingdom. His father's leadership had created a strong foundation for the modern state of Saudi Arabia. Domestic policies and challenges. Economic development. During his reign, King Saud aimed to modernize Saudi Arabia's infrastructure and economy. He made efforts to build schools, hospitals, and roads. His government worked on increasing educational opportunities and improving the healthcare system. Oil revenue. The discovery of oil in Saudi Arabia, initiated during his father's reign, began to generate substantial wealth. However, King Saud struggled to manage the growing oil revenue efficiently. Despite the country's economic potential, there were challenges in managing the nation's finances, which led to a rising budget deficit during his reign. Government spending. King Saud's government embarked on extensive public spending, which included ambitious projects for modernization. However, this led to significant budgetary problems, and the kingdom's financial management became unsustainable. This led to a growing reliance on foreign loans. Foreign policy. Relations with the United States and the West. King Saud continued the foreign policy framework initiated by his father. Saudi Arabia maintained close ties with the United States, particularly in the context of oil resources. The U.S. was a major trading partner, and King Saud visited the United States in 1957 to solidify relations. Arab world and Pan-Arabism. Saud supported Pan-Arabism, a movement seeking to unite Arab nations. He was sympathetic to the Arab nationalist movements and advocated for Arab unity. However, his foreign policy towards other Arab states was sometimes inconsistent. Relations with Egypt. During King Saud's reign, there were tensions with Egypt under President Gamal Abdel Nasser, especially due to Nasser's Arab nationalist policies. Nasser's stance on Pan-Arabism conflicted with Saud's monarchy-based governance, leading to a strained relationship. The Yemeni Civil War. In the late 1950s and early 1960s, Saudi Arabia was involved in the Yemeni Civil War, supporting royalist factions against the Republican forces backed by Egypt. The involvement drained the country's resources and added to domestic instability. Decline in power and financial troubles. Economic struggles. King Saud's lavish spending on projects, foreign diplomacy, and military involvement, especially in Yemen, strained Saudi Arabia's finances. The country began to face a growing fiscal crisis due to the mismanagement of oil revenues and heavy borrowing. Domestic dissent. As the economic crisis worsened, dissatisfaction with King Saud's leadership grew, especially among the royal family and the government. His inability to effectively manage the country's finances contributed to unrest within the ruling elite. Deposition and abdication, 1964. Family and Council of Ministers. In 1964, after growing discontent with his rule and the worsening economic situation, King Saud's younger brother, Prince Faisal, and a group of senior officials, including members of the royal family and the Council of Ministers, moved to remove him from power. Deposition. On November 2, 1964, King Saud was formally deposed in a palace coup. He was forced to abdicate in favor of his brother, Prince Faisal, who became the new king. Exile. After his deposition, King Saud was allowed to live in exile in Europe, mainly in Greece and later in Cairo, Egypt, where he spent the rest of his life. Despite the abdication, he remained a figurehead for some factions within Saudi Arabia, and his removal from the throne did not diminish his legacy within the royal family. Death and legacy. Death. King Saud passed away on February 23, 1969, in Athens, Greece, at the age of 67. His death marked the end of a tumultuous reign. Legacy. King Saud's legacy is mixed. He is remembered for his attempts at modernizing Saudi Arabia, particularly in terms of infrastructure and education. However, his reign is also associated with financial mismanagement, overspending, and challenges in governance. While his foreign policy initially sought to expand Saudi Arabia's influence, it became marked by conflict, particularly in the Arab world and Yemen. The reign of King Faisal. After his abdication, his brother King Faisal succeeded him and went on to lead Saudi Arabia in a much more pragmatic manner. Faisal's reign marked a period of stability and economic recovery, partially thanks to his focus on oil revenue management and his ability to navigate the complexities of both domestic and international affairs. Key achievements. Infrastructure. Saud's government built new schools, hospitals, and roads, laying the foundation for modern Saudi Arabia. Support for Pan-Arabism. Saud supported Arab unity and sought to bolster Saudi Arabia's influence in the Arab world, particularly in its early years. Economic challenges. Though King Saud's reign faced significant economic challenges, it was the first period in Saudi Arabia's history where vast oil wealth began to shape the country's economy and its global influence. Final thoughts. King Saud's reign is remembered for its ambitious, yet flawed, attempts at modernizing Saudi Arabia. His financial mismanagement and inability to balance spending with the nation's resources ultimately led to his downfall, but his leadership helped guide Saudi Arabia through a time of great change, laying the groundwork for future development under his successors.